All right, for more on this, let's speak to a journalist at the Huffington Post, Rowaida Abdelaziz, who joins us now from New York. Rowaida, in the wake of the New Zealand terror attack, we saw a lot of increased security at mosques in New York. How is the community in New York, or I guess just domestically here in the U.S., feeling about the type of hatred that we saw in the New Zealand terror attack? And are they evaluating some of the factors that are contributing to hate, Islamophobia, xenophobia that's been prevalent in Western society, more prevalent than it used to be?
Absolutely. The Muslim American community has been in no way unaffected by what happened in New Zealand, despite the distance. Many Muslim Americans not only empathize with what happened in New Zealand, but are afraid for their own communities. You know, the United States itself has been grappling with a skyrocketed amount of anti-Muslim rhetoric and Islamophobia, anything from cases of vandalism at the mosques. We had several mosque arsons, to Muslim women and their hijabs being pulled off, bullying in schools, employee discrimination, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately, we have an administration that doesn't condemn it as loudly. And so Muslim Americans here, the Friday immediately after the attack, they came out in mass numbers. They said that they were traumatized, they were hurting, they were mourning with the community, but they were also resilient. And they were saying that by the power of numbers. Now, with a couple weeks out from Ramadan, where Muslims tend to gather in mosques and spend the majority of their time there, especially on Friday prayers, especially in the evening, the community is starting to take into serious considerations issues like security, staffing with police officers on a daily basis for the entire month, like they have been, perhaps even more. I've spoken to one mosque who were in the middle of renovations, who told me that they were even thinking about scrapping their renovations entirely and really focusing less on aesthetics and more on security. So people are aware, they are responding, whether it's the institutions like the Muslim community centers, or it's Muslims themselves who are going out and are being a little bit more wary and being more aware, not because of what happened in New Zealand in particular, again, but because we've been grappling with this issue for a while. And this particular massacre made many Americans think who are Muslim that this could very easily happen here as well.
Facebook and Instagram have stepped up their efforts. They're banning white nationalist content. They're increasing their team to get a lot of that propaganda off of those social media sites. That's certainly a start, but what else needs to be done to make sure something like New Zealand never happens again?
The issue with Islamophobia, that it's more than just a social media problem. Yes, Facebook has come out and said this, but many Muslim Americans will tell you it's been a long time coming. This should have been a decision that was taken a long time ago. We've seen with anti-Muslim propaganda in particular has been amplified on social media websites, not just Facebook, but Twitter and YouTube, in ways that have gone unaddressed for way too long. Muslim Americans are also calling on to their politicians who need to take a much stronger stance condemning anti-Muslim hatred. Too often politicians are silent, and that silence is so loud for too many. And also, if you're looking at the basic statistics, more than 60-something% of Americans don't even know a Muslim personally. So mosques have been opening their doors. Muslim Americans have been pleading with their neighbors to say, hey, just come talk to the community, come meet the community. A lot of the demonization and vilification will go away with more human one-to-one interactions. And of course, pleading out to media and understanding the demonization that has been happening for Muslims for way too long. There was a study that came out by the ISPU that said Muslim perpetrator of violence received 770 times more media coverage than their white counterparts. And so understanding the dichotomy between that and the real life impacts these media coverages has on the Muslim American community is quite real and is quite scary. So people are talking, they're just wanting for more people to listen.
I'm glad that you raised the issue of media coverage. I wanted to get your take on how you thought the domestic media, the mainstream media here in the United States did in covering the aftermath of New Zealand's terror attack.
You know, for starters, I think people were quite impressed that, by the way, how the American media responded, the fact that they were responding and listening and taking into consideration what was happening. So I think in the very beginning, the support was overwhelming. We saw good coverage. We saw a lot of coverage. We saw fair and accurate coverage. To be quite honest, it kind of fell out quite quickly. The U.S. is battling a number of issues. We are currently dealing with different political things, the Russia investigation, et cetera, here with this current administration. And so it kind of dropped off the news cycle a little bit too fast for different people who said that we should be taking more time to assess the situation, to talk about the dangers of white supremacy, to talk about the dangers of white nationalism and how it's been exported globally, and to really amplify the voices of Muslim Americans. And so although it started off on a positive note, people think that it kind of disappeared from the news cycle too quickly.
All right, Rowaida Abdelaziz, we really appreciate your perspective, your reporting, and your insight. Again, 2 weeks outside of that horrible New Zealand terror attack. We appreciate you being with us.